Hi everyone, this is Lady T with Lady T Speaks TV, where I talk about all facets of relationships. I'm continuing in the series. We're talking about a difficult marriage, God's design for marriage to bring it to a place of health and wholeness. And so let's keep in mind that in a Christian marriage, God should be glorified. That's very, very important. But a lot of people don't understand that. So we got to get to a place where we can understand. So as I was doing some research, I came across something that I wanted to share. It's on whatchristianswanttoknow.com. And we're talking about a difficult marriage. Oftentimes, difficulty in the marriage leads to divorce. So we want to talk about the primary causes for divorce, and this was a Christian study. So what they did was they talked to people who were married and that Christians who were married specifically, and they talked to them about what their issues are. And I talked about some of these issues as well, but I wanted to get into more detail about these issues. So, top reasons for divorce. What are the primary causes for divorce that most couples overlook? What can we do to alleviate these causes? To know the cause is to know what to do and to hopefully reduce the chances of divorce occurring. And these are some of the primary causes of divorce. So, some of the greatest reasons for divorce today are in descending order: ongoing adultery or pornography, which is the same as adultery in the heart. Matthew's the 5th chapter and the 28th verse, and we'll talk about that. Lack of communication, and I told you I wanted to stick with these because, as you can see, they're the primary ones. Drug or alcohol addictions or abuse. That's huge, and we'll go again. I want to go into detail. I want to take each one and to give you insight about each one. Sexual problems, financial problems, unfulfilled expectations, differences in priorities, differences in child rearing, religious or cultural differences, boredom, falling out of love, child sexual or physical abuse. I've talked about this before, that if you've been abused as a child, that's very traumatic. And if you go back to some of my videos, you'll see what trauma does to a child going forward into adulthood, some of the issues that can arise as a result. And if you had that sort of abuse as a child, sexual or physical abuse, it is going to be in the middle of your marriage if you haven't had some sort of counseling and you haven't dealt with it once for all, because these are root core issues and they're internal. And so when you get into a marriage, again, you're trying to become one. So whatever you had going on prior to getting married, something that's unresolved, it's going to come right into the center of your marriage, especially if you haven't placed God at his prospective place where he should be positioned in your marriage. So you're going to have difficulty. A controlling spouse, that's a huge one for some people. Mental health issues. Again, these are issues that will cause divorce. In-laws interference, or I'll say any interference that is outside of the relationship can cause major difficulty in the marital relationship. Jealousy, insecurity, or lack of trust, shift in priorities, children leave home, empty nest. You hear a lot of people talking about empty nest. When the children left, they were left with one another, and they didn't know how to relate to each other because mostly it was all about raising the children and doing the day-to-day. So let's talk about what the article says a little. I'm going to give you what they're saying, but again, I'm giving you some issues to work out, some things to really think about how to work them out in your marriage if you're in a difficult marriage as a Christian. So, addressing the causes. If you have problems in one or more of these areas, this does not mean that you are headed for divorce, but if you have several of these issues residing your present marriage, it could be time for counseling. And I'm a counselor, so of course, I'm going to address these issues for you so that you can be aware of them. This is how you know your marriage is. If you started a marriage and it was a good marriage, and then you start running into difficulty, these are the signs to really look at, so that you can know you really need counseling. So counseling with a Christian marriage counselor reduces the likelihood of a divorce. Everyone changes with age, but change is not always bad. Change is unavoidable, as we are changing every day. I am not the same I was 10 years ago. The person is saying in the article, I will not be the same man, and this is a man writing, which is good. That's good to get that perspective next year than I am today. What remains constant in me is that I make a concerted effort to love my wife in ways beyond just saying it. Love is a verb. It is not so much what you say as what you do. And that's where we talked about 1 Corinthians, the 13th chapter. Love is patient, love is kind, it does not envy, it does not boast, it is not proud. And that's, we have to keep that foundation here so we can not get into difficulty. We can find out what God's perspective is on our marriage, especially in difficult times. So they go on to say, by acknowledging the causes of divorce as a real and present danger to your marriage, you can address these serious issues ahead of time. One example is to determine in advance what actions you will take. And I really like that, because if you're proactive when you're going into difficulty, or you see the signs of you having issues in your marriage or having some sort of conflict, you can head off, or stop these things from moving further. And again, when I'm talking to you all, I'm talking to the individual person, because oftentimes what is going on is innate, meaning inside of you. And so, in order to deal with what's going on inside of you, I said to you before, when you're in marriage, it's the best way to pull out those things that need to be dealt with. Not saying that your mate is deliberately going after the things that they see in you, although it can happen in a difficult marriage. What I'm saying is, I believe wholeheartedly that God allows you to get married so that you can see the things that need to be worked out in you, so you can become more Christ-like. And that's in both of you. Because when you become more Christ-like, it's easier for you to navigate through anything in life, pretty much. And the Bible is a blueprint for marriage, for relationships, for anything. There's nothing up under the sun that God has not already dealt with through his son Jesus. So Jesus had that human experience, and because he had a human experience, he understands and relates to us in a way that we can get help. And so God is always wanting the very best for us, as his people, as his children. And so if you're in a difficult marriage, it could be that there's some things that you need to work out in you to become more Christ-like. And what better way to measure that than to be in an intimate relationship with someone who brings that out to the light, so you can deal with it once and for all. So I wanted to share that with you, and talk a little bit about pornography. Not a lot, because I want to save a whole video for that. But let me talk to you a little bit about what the author said in this article. Pornography is adultery in the heart. Remember, we talked about having heart issue. When you, whatever's in your heart comes out. That the scriptures say this: it's not what goes in a man that defiles him, it's what that comes out of him. And out of your heart flows the issues of your life, out of your heart. So I was looking at an illustration, or I was looking at, I should say, a video. And in the video, it was Bishop Shears, who is Karen Clark's husband. And the way that he talked about Adam's rib was very profound. And I just want to share a little bit of what he said. He said this. He said that God, and we know this in the book of Genesis, that God placed Adam into a deep sleep because he recognized, after he made all the animals, and I'm paraphrasing, after he created the animals and Adam named the animals, he saw that Adam was lonely. And so he made a help meet for him, an METE for him, so that he wouldn't be lonely. So look at God. God is a relational God. Look at God. He saw that his creation was lonely, the man that he made in his image. And so he created the woman from his rib. He put Adam to sleep in a deep sleep, the Bible says. And then he made Eve out of his rib. And what he said, Bishop Sheard said, you check out his video. I thought it was so profound. It was good insight. So he said that, our heart, our ribs protect our heart. So if God took my rib and created this beautiful, awesome woman out of it, then she's close to my heart. And so anything that's concerning me in our marriage, if it concerns me, it concerns her because I guard her. I guard her. I'm her covering. So, and she came from out of my rib, which guards my heart. So when we have issues, there's normally issues in our heart that need to be resolved. So, of course, in the marriage, you're going to have difficulty, but God wants us to resolve it, to come to a place of agreement, to come to a place where we still love agape unconditionally, because that's what God does for us. I wanted to share that with you, and then I'm going to come back. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the author said about pornography. And again, I'm adding the perspective from God's point of view so that you can be clear if you're new in a marriage, you're contemplating marriage, you're in your mid part of your marriage, in your latter years in your marriage, you can understand clearly God's perspective on marriage and how you can navigate through the tough waters that happen sometimes when you're married. All right, everyone, I'll come back. We'll talk some more. This is Lady T with Lady T Speaks TV, where I talk about all facets of relationship. Take care. Talk to you all soon.